Welcome back to another UCL Fantasy video ahead of Matchday 3. This will be my team selection where I'll discuss whether I'll use 2 free transfers or the wildcard, and you'll see my final team in the deadline stream on Tuesday. We'll be starting around 3:30 p.m. UK time. It's always going to be starting around 2 hours before the first kickoff of the match day and, of course, the deadline as a result. I'd highly encourage anyone watching to also check out the best wildcard and limitless team videos. They are separate. Watch both of them and then compare them and see which path you want to go on. Which team would you prefer to have in Matchday 3? And there's also a chip strategy guide, which I made several weeks ago. If you watch that, you can see the best time to use the wildcard and limitless chips. Of course, there's a how to play guide too, which will help you with any rules that you're unsure about, the substitutions, the captaincy. All of that will be discussed in that video too. So there's a lot of UCL Fantasy and FPL content which will help you to do very well this season. Use it as a guide. You don't have to copy everything and stuff like that, because if you do, you'll probably limit yourself to how well I'm doing or maybe someone else that you're copying. And trust me, you can definitely do better by going on your own path and just taking what I say with a pinch of salt and just building on the discussion in the live streams and videos. Trust me, you can do better than what I'm doing, that's for sure. This is my worst start to UCL Fantasy so far this season. I am looking to bounce back, and on screen you can see the top 7, technically top 10. There's a lot of joint seconds and thirds and sevenths and all of that jazz. And if you look at the description below, there is an auto join link to my league. You can see the league code on the left hand corner of your screen. We have over 3,000 members, so thank you very much to those that have joined. It's massively appreciated. I believe it's the biggest UCL fantasy league in the world. Our aim will be to get this video to over 200 likes, and we're very close towards 21,000 subscribers. So let's hit that milestone by the Tuesday deadline. But without further ado, let's jump straight into this video. I usually do extremely well when I play the limitless chip, whether it's in UCL Fantasy, World Cup Fantasy, or Euro 2020 Fantasy Football 2. And there were some great picks, of course, some fantastic fixtures for some of the best teams in world football, but it just didn't come together. There were also some injury problems like Lewandowski coming off, Saka as well. Those were 2 massive blows. And once I saw Saka coming off, I just had a feeling it was not going to be my week and things were going to be pretty dismal, to say the least. Bayern Munich severely underperforming against Copenhagen. They were trailing for a lot of the game. They ended up coming back as well. And only a few players here and there like Denzel Dumfries, Jude Bellingham, who I already had in my non-limitless team, did well. And I actually would have scored more points by not playing any chip or making any single transfer. So it just comes to show that sometimes when you do, always try to find a way to improve your team and you're kind of constantly making transfers and changes, that could actually be to the detriment to your score. And sometimes leaving things is the best thing to do. So it is what it is. I do think that those that limitless in Matchday 2 were very unlucky, but there were some poor fixtures. There's no denying that. A lot of away games too, and I think Matchdays 3 and 4 definitely have the better fixtures, but I'd still rather use the wildcard in Matchday 3 to then set your team up for the rest of the group stages. You also have the exact same fixture in Matchday 4 compared to Matchday 3, so there are pros and cons to using the limitless in Matchday 2, in Matchday 3 and in Matchday 4. But as I've always said, and if you check out that chip strategy guide, as I said before, I think the best time to use the limitless is between Matchdays 2 to 5. You can't use in Matchday 1, of course, and in Matchday 6 there's so much rotation, and I would just avoid any chips really in Matchday 6. That's the way I would go about it, unless you have so many injuries and potential, doubts about who starts, that wildcarding into teams that still have something to play for could really benefit you in Matchday 6. That's the only circumstance where I'd consider using a chip in Matchday 6. You can use the limitless in Matchdays 8, 9, 10, but the fixtures will be much tougher, games will be much tighter in general, and the best teams will also have the best fixtures in the group stages. So that's why I always say to use the limitless between Matchdays 2 to 5. And if I still had the chip in my back pocket, I'd probably look to use it in Matchday 5. Once again, though, Matchdays 3 and 4 aren't too bad either. You look at the team here, so I got 55 points. My overall rank went up by around 11,000 places maybe. I don't really know what my rank rise was, because honestly, it's probably the first time I've ever felt disappointed over a green arrow, because I played the limitless and I got less points than I would have if I did absolutely nothing with my Matchday 2 squad. And you see Oblak there blanking, you got 3 points. Raya making a mistake when Arsenal were 1-0 up and Arsenal ended up losing that game. You look at my back 4 as well. Only Joao Cancelo did well. Ruben Dias with a 4 pointer, not too bad. Yeah, Denzel Dumfries 9 points, yeah, all amazing. But Davis blanking. You look at also Gossens, who had a goal actually very early on, just before I wrapped up the deadline stream, and ended up being disallowed, and then Union Berlin just bottled it in the end and ended up losing in the dying embers of the game to Braga at home. So that was an absolute disaster. Once I saw that even, I just had a feeling it was going to be an awful match day. You see Leroy Sané blanking against Copenhagen, Odegaard as well. Saka got an assist but was subbed off with an injury, and he also missed the Man City game as a result. Bellingham was clutch with a 14-pointer, but I didn't captain him, and I would have captained him if I kept my original team. And then you have Haaland blanking there as my captain, Lewandowski coming off of an injury. So it was an absolute disaster, to say the least, of course, and not many returns at all. I got rid of players like Thuram and Doku, who came off the bench and scored in Doku's case. Thuram started in matchday 2, he did in a matchday 1. So many things I think were a bit unlucky and went against me. But in the end, you could just argue that limitlessing in matchday 2 was a mistake. I can hold my hands up and say that. But if we went back in time and you were offering me the same kind of scenario in terms of limitlessing matchday 2, I still probably would have taken it. And I always say limitlessing between matchdays 2 and 5 is the best way to tackle it. And this is by far my worst limitless of any fantasy game I've ever played. So poor captaincy, so many blanks, only Dumfries, Bellingham, and I say Joao Cancelo did well for me. The rest were very disappointing, and that's the way the cookie crumbles. I can still bounce back. There are 11 match days left, and it's very important to have a very good end to the group stages in order to have the foundations for the knockouts where things start to get tighter and the template forms, and we all have very similar teams from matchday 7 onwards. So let's now head over to my team selection, how my team looks like without using any transfers in matchday 3, and then later on I'll be discussing some transfer plans using 2 free transfers and whether I'll use the wildcard or not. I have to say, just at first sight, not putting too much thought into it, my squad looks fairly decent in matchday 3, and that was also one of my kind of primary thinkings in terms of matchday 1 and forming my squad. Matchday 2 was the only matchday I looked at my team and thought, that's not going to get too many points really, but it still did relatively well. All things considered, it would have been another green arrow, regardless of using the limitless or not, and it would have been an even bigger one actually, if I did nothing, of course. Sommer would be in goal at home to Salzburg, and if you check out my wildcard and limitless team videos, you will see that ter Stegen and Sommer are definitely big recommendations I'd make in matchday 3, so I'm very happy to have 2 of the best goalkeepers in UCL Fantasy. Denzel Dumfries is also a very solid option, but I think the biggest weak link in my defence is Fran Garcia. David Raum is fine against Werner Svesda at home in matchday 3. I'm not anticipating clean sheets in the other games though. Even matchday 4 away from home in Serbia, I think Leipzig could concede, but Raum has some attacking potential. He's a decent option overall. I've also got Xavi Simons, Bellingham, Thuram and Kimmich as the midfield. I think that's a fairly decent one. Not the best, but still relatively good, all things considered. And my front 3, it would be great, but Lewandowski is injured and he needs to be sold, unfortunately. And even Angel Di Maria is a doubt. He missed the games for Argentina too, and that's another big concern. So I've got 2 issues in the forward line and also Fran Garcia at the back. Ideally, I'd sell all 3 of them, and I could do so for a -4 hit. It's not a, I'd say, out of the realms of possibility, but I would still rather use 2 free transfers and if anything bench that kind of injured player or the player that doesn't start in Fran Garcia. And my bench is also relatively decent with ter Stegen, Cancelo, Akanji and Doku. Akanji was sent off against Brighton and he also was involved in the goal that they conceded, so he had a very poor performance over the weekend. As for Doku though, even off the bench he can do something, but I won't lie to you, I would rather he started against young boys and maybe played the full 90 or at least 70 to 80 minutes, and that would only boost his chances of getting some UCL fantasy points there. But my squad overall looks pretty good, with the exception of Di Maria, Lewandowski and Fran Garcia. I think the rest looks completely fine. It's not amazing, but it's also fairly solid and should get green arrows on paper. The captaincy will be Bellingham and Haaland. The same would be if I wildcarded or used the limitless. I think they're the best captaincy options on the Tuesday and the Wednesday, so I think that wouldn't change much. But the rest of the complexion of the squad, if I were to wildcard, there would be some wholesale changes, but I don't think there'd be a massive improvement upon what my matchday free squad currently is without using any free transfers. But let's now go into some transfer plans I'm looking to make involving the forward line and the defence. I've been searching quite a lot into this issue about Di Maria. He did miss out against Peru and Paraguay, and I'm not sure exactly, how long this injury will be. I saw that he suffered a thigh injury against Inter Milan in the Champions League, but apparently won't be out for too long. But I only saw one report. If you know more about Di Maria's injury, then of course let me know in the comment section. That'd be greatly appreciated. But if Di Maria is fit, I could get Harry Kane in for Robert Lewandowski and Di Lorenzo for Fran Garcia. And in the comment section, I'd also highly appreciate if you gave me your thoughts in terms of whether you prefer these set of transfers, which I just said now, it would be for free, of course, no hits involved, or the next set of transfers, which would be 2 forward moves in João Felix and Harry Kane in for Lewandowski and Angel Di Maria. So the difference would be João Felix in for Angel Di Maria or Di Lorenzo for Fran Garcia. Which transfer do you prefer? And of course, let me know down in the comment section on Twitter, Instagram, the Discord server, any way you want to kind of convey your message. But I want to see what you lot think, of course. And my current instinct is probably to go for Fran Garcia to Di Lorenzo, keep Di Maria. He could be back for Matchday 3, and if he is, I'd be happy to keep him, even though he hasn't been great so far in the Champions League. So these set of transfers is what I'm leaning towards, but of course, I want to see your thoughts as well. And also, the alternative is to take a -4 hit or even to wildcard. And I'm not saying I will not wildcard. I'm not saying that definitively. But on the Sunday, which is when I'm recording this video, my current feeling is to use 2 free transfers because I am relatively happy with the rest of my squad. I've also got 2 of the best captaincy options in my opinion, and I don't really see too many improvements from the wildcard to this team. But of course you may disagree, and that's completely understandable. But I may save the wildcard for later in the season, and in the deadline stream on Tuesday, I'll have more information after the Sunday matches have been done, and on the Monday I'll have more time to reflect upon it, and then I will make a final decision. But my current thinking is to use 2 free transfers, most likely Harry Kane and Di Lorenzo in, but things could certainly change and nothing is locked in. You will see my final team in the deadline stream. Members will get early access to my team reveal, and the same goes for patrons as well on patreon.com/DylanRCM. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's try to get this video to the 300 likes. Let's keep on pushing towards 21,000 subscribers and beyond. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description below for the Patreon and channel memberships, the Discord server, and the UCL Fantasy League. All of the links are there. I wish you all the best of luck for Matchday 3 and the rest of the season. If you want to see the best wildcard team, the video is up there, and that's very likely what I'd wildcard to if I end up changing my mind and deciding to activate the chip. So be sure to check out all the other content for UCL Fantasy, including the deadline stream on Tuesday, and I'll see you next time.